Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by husky, hairy, huggable homos who love film to discuss something near and dear to our hearts. Of course, that being movies. And we have a fun show for you this time around. But before we tell you what we're doing, let me introduce my wonderful, wonderful co-host. Jim Poliafico is here with us. Welcome, Jim.
Thanks, and welcome to the podcast, everyone.
And Will Lindis is here as well. Welcome, Will.
Thank you for the intro, wonderful, wonderful Brad.
You are so welcome. Wonderful, 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 or willerful? I don't know. Anyway.
It's been so long since we were together.
I know. But we are celebrating Thanksgiving on the Movie Bears podcast a little bit early because we're going to be traveling and seeing friends and family for the holiday. So you may be getting this episode a little earlier than you're used to. That's okay. But we are going to be discussing some of the films in celebration of the holiday that we are most thankful for. So these may be movies that have great personal significance. They could be movies that we were just really jazzed about this year. Whatever you guys want to do, I'm fine with. As long as you're thankful for the film, it fits into our topic for this show. So we're just going to dive right in and start counting them down. Will, what's a movie that you are most thankful for?
So I think it's important for us to kind of like define what we mean by thankful, and because it's such a broad category. And for me, these are films that, for whatever reason, I have some sort of personal attachment to. Some of these aren't necessarily like the best movies or even movies that I think would make any of my top 10 lists or what have you, but they are certainly films that I personally can watch 1,001 times because of whatever emotional attachment I've got to them. So the very first film that I've got on my list is from 1975, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. So let me set the stage a little bit on this one. This is a film that isn't always great. There are parts of this film that are extremely campy. This film is a very flawed film, but to me, it's kind of like the essence of punk rock in that, like, what makes it so great are the things that are kind of like, flawed or damaged or kind of not quite polished. But even more so, this is a film that I've enjoyed many, many times with many, many very important people to me. Both my ex, we went several times to go see Rocky Horror Picture Show, and my boyfriend Scott, we've gone several times to midnight showings. It seems like the people in my life seem to gravitate towards this film as much as I do. The live show experience is kinetic. There's something you can't quite describe about the audience callback and the participation and the props. It's something that transcends the film itself. It creates community. It creates experience. So for this reason, I'm extremely thankful that the Rocky Horror Picture Show is in my life.
Right. Well, I think for this movie, it's one that I've tried to watch a couple of times, and it just didn't really catch on with me. And I think maybe because I think you just hit on it. I think you probably have to experience the live screening thing once in order to become a big fan of it. Because working on at home, watching it on streaming or whatever, just didn't really cut it for me. And I think that's maybe because I haven't been properly introduced or indoctrinated.
Yeah. Go see it. I actually saw it the one time I visited Tucson. We made a special event out of going to the Loft and seeing it. Yeah. So the only movie I've seen at the Loft is Rocky Horror Picture Show. If you just sit there and watch it on your television, it's hard to get enthused with it. But go see a midnight screening. It will, like, especially with other fans, it's transcendent.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Nice. Right. All right. Awesome, Will. Jim, what about you? What's a movie you're thankful for?
Okay, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat more than once on this list because this is so fucking hard for me. Like, movies that I'm thankful for. Well, I'm thankful for movies in general. I'm thankful that we're able to go to movies and enjoy movies. Even if the bad ones, I always get excited about going to the movies. Even when we're on the 32nd movie of a festival, I'm still excited for walking into the movie theater and seeing it. So, but it's hard for me to like pick out. And there are movies that are kind of special to me, movies that I love. but there were just so many, and it's hard to like boil it down into ones that I'm really, really thankful for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit and say my first movie that I'm thankful for is actually a movie franchise. And it's the Godzilla movie franchise from 1954 to 2016 with this year's Shin Godzilla just kind of re-energized my love of this whole movie franchise. I'm not going to talk about every movie, but from Ishiro Honda to Hideki Anno this year, I mean, it's just on such a scale that I remember as a little kid watching Godzilla movies on black and white TVs, creature feature on UHF channels that you had to freaking tune in with a dial. Yeah, I know I'm dating myself here. But no remote controls. You actually had to get your ass up off the couch, walk over to the TV, tune the dial. Not only that, but you had these bow tie UHF antennas, and some people will know what I'm talking about. You had to put it just in the right orientation to kind of get the clear picture and watch Godzilla movies. And I don't know, there's just something about them, the way that they've portrayed Godzilla like over the years and in the different eras, they're called eras of the Godzilla movies, from the first ones where Godzilla is this force of nature and kind of a synonymous with the nuclear attacks on Japan, to into the silly, like, oh, we're going to have them fight Space Creature X, this year, and have Godzilla dance a jig when he punches somebody. And then, now into the later stuff where they're maybe getting back more toward the original idea of Godzilla being such a force of nature and an unstoppable thing. Anyway, the Godzilla movie franchise, that's something that I'm very thankful for. And I'm thankful that it's re-energized this year.
Yeah, Jim, I have to tell you, so like, I kind of adore that you call this out here because, I remember these movies when I was growing up. I watched some of them with my dad, and I just remember thinking, God, these are so hokey. This is so dumb. But, that's like when I was, I don't know, 10, and I wanted to like go read Star Trek books like in my, tree fort. And so, like, kind of going back and watching these movies with you from the very beginning and making our way through them, it's really become a franchise that I love a lot as well. But it's a franchise that's become synonymous with my love for you, and so I love that it's something we can share. So I'm thankful for these films, as a result of your thankfulness for these.
I'm happy to be synonymous with a big, giant, scaly green monster with ultra bad breath.
And a big, giant, thick, meaty tail.
Well, I would say that Godzilla has a giant heart. Really, that's why we love him so much. I also love that you picked for your number one spot, and I'm totally on board with this. I 100% agree. But like, you basically pick 32 films. I'm hoping that in your second slot you pick like James Bond, like the 25 James Bond movies. In the third spot, you pick like all 11 Harry Potter movies, so that you can get like all six, like a 68 movie top 3 list.
There you go.
I am not going to tip my hand, but I may cheat one more time.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, go for it.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, a movie that I am thankful for is actually a movie that tends to come on television around this time of year, around the Thanksgiving holiday. And that is 1939's The Wizard of Oz. Big surprise, gay man, friend of Dorothy, who likes Wizard of Oz. But directed by Victor Fleming, starring, of course, the wonderful Judy Garland. There's such phenomenal music in this movie. And I got to tell you guys, I remember when I was a kid, this was one of the first movies that like scared me. Like, the Wicked Witch was absolutely terrifying, even in her form as like the cranky old lady that like wants to take Toto away from Dorothy. I don't think I like this movie because of any particular gay element. I think it's just kind of a phenomenal story. I love sort of that first view we get of the Emerald City. And of course, now we have the remastered Blu-ray that came out a few years ago. Everything has been touched up and redone, and it looks just fucking bloody brilliant on screen. It's something that, Jim, I would really love to go back and watch again here soon together if you're up for that. But yeah. I was actually in a production of the Wizard of Oz in high school, and I hit this point where we were singing those stupid fucking songs 8 times a day, every day. And I was like, man, I should really hate all this music, but it was so good. I couldn't do it. So to this day, when I watch The Wizard of Oz, it makes me feel like a kid inside. It makes me feel like, I don't know. It's a very hopeful kind of film. Like, as bad as things can get, remember, you can always click your heels.
Can always kill a witch and go home.
Think of home and be transported back to your magical Monday.
Don't you wish we could click our heels together this week?
And it would be last week again?
Yeah. I love the hopefulness of last week compared to there's a house falling on us of this week.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my first choice.
Great first choice. It's one of those ones that when you think of like classic films, not just like by classic old, I mean by classic, just like the films that will outlive us. I mean, this film will outlive us all. This is one of the most memorable ones because it's touched so many of our lives for so many different reasons. So yeah, it's a fantastic choice.
Yeah. And I was scared to death of this movie when I was a little kid too, watching. We would gather around because it would only come on certain times of the year, right? We didn't have it on VCR. We didn't have it on DVD. So you had to tune into it. And man, when Mrs. Gulch came on and the witch, like, she was an absolute bitch to kids. And that scared the
She was a witch. She was a witch to kids.
A bitch and then
we
a
don't
witch.
used to be,
Oh, Jim. Have you learned nothing in Trump's America? Come on.
I'm sorry. I just can't get on board. I can't get on board and empathize with Mrs. Gulch at this point. I just can't.
Oh, goodness.
We need a hashtag in support of Mrs. Gulch.
We do.
We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, Will, what's your next thankful film?
So the next film that I wanted to talk about is when I think about, and similar to what you just did, Brad. When I think about films that I'm most thankful for, I think a lot about films that impacted me when I was a child and that I've been able to continue to watch like every year as I've aged. And there's a lot of movies that fall in that boat, whether it be Monster Squad, which is the film that is far superior to Goonies. And I will fight anyone that says otherwise. Even things like, like The Lost Boys, like just kind of really shitty vampire movie that I loved as a kid. But the one kid movie that I most admire today, it still holds as one of my favorite movies, if not my absolute favorite movie, is 1986 Labyrinth. This is a film by Jim Henson starring David Bowie, who we lost this year, terribly tragic, with a very young Jennifer Connelly, and featuring a bunch of original Muppets and some pretty damn cool songs, some of which sung by Bowie himself. It stars Connelly as the 16-year-old girl who has to solve her way through this labyrinth and find the Goblin King. And this is a movie that, growing up, I watched this all of the time. I had one of those like VHS tapes where you rented the video from the store and copied it, even though you weren't really supposed to, and you watch it over and over and over and over again, and then to the point where you know all the words, all the songs, like all that stuff. This movie I can still put on if I'm feeling kind of shitty, if I'm feeling sick, if I've just been crying for the last couple of days, I need some sort of boost. Labyrinth is the film that I can almost assuredly always go back to. So I'm extremely thankful for this movie for this reason.
Hey, Will.
Yeah.
You remind me of the Babe.
What Babe?
Babe with the power.
What power?
Power of voodoo.
Who do?
You do.
Do what?
Remind me of the Babe.
Yay! Yeah, I have to say, me and my boy, me and Scott, about once a week, someone will say, "You remind me of the Babe," and that exact exchange, like it's written in stone. Like once someone starts it, you have to finish. You can't.
You do.
You can't leave them hanging.
Okay, that was adorable, guys. That whole bit was adorable.
Aww.
I love that you were able to like act out that short scene there.
Well, I gotta co-sign this one, Will. Labyrinth was a big part of my childhood too, and it's one of those movies that I'm so glad has been re-released on Blu-ray as well, because like it makes it imminently more watchable, right? Nowadays, so I don't have to like break out my VHS copy. But gosh, Labyrinth gets a lot of crap heaped on it sometimes, people are like, you know, it was a stupid movie. The Muppets don't look great. It's and it makes me shake with like nerd rage. Like, you've got the fisticuffs going on right now. Like, every time I hear a millennial say, "Oh my God, Labyrinth is so dumb," like, I just want to choke the life out of them.
Yeah, it's like, do the effects 100% hold up compared to like effects that are being made now? At no point can you say, yeah, the best stuff from now is going to like what do we want? Like for the stuff today to be worse than the stuff from 30 years ago? But that said, like, I mean, the puppetry still holds up. Like, puppetry is one of those things that, especially when the Hensons do it right, like from this or the Dark Crystal or even the the Storyteller series, which again also still holds up. Yep. Some of that stuff, like that puppetry is timeless.
I agree. Great pick.
I mean, we can't. I mean, it was the shit when it came out, right? It really, for kids anyway. I mean, it was kind of like that next step past the Muppet Show. You know what I mean? It combined the Muppets with you know, wizardry and magic and all that stuff and adventure into a movie and songs, right? And that you guys resonated with. At the time, it kind of went by me and you know, wasn't something that fell onto my radar. But since then, I've watched it, and I can totally appreciate how, you know, this would have caught on to kids at the time watching it. And hey, you can't knock the effects in this movie when we just talked about the Wizard of Oz being, you know, a puff of smoke and a trap door and a witch. You know, I mean, like that's what that movie had. So,
well, yeah, one thing this movie also had going for it, and I know we have a lot of other picks to get through, is like, Jim, you talked about like Sesame Street and stuff. This movie took it a step further. I mean, you had these Muppets that were like tearing off their heads and like changing heads and popping out their eyeballs and juggling. I mean, it was a little fucking freaky too. You know, it was a little scary. So yeah, well, excellent pick. All right, Jim, what's your next one?
Well, Brad, you guys brought up the witch movie, right? The Wizard of Oz. So I'm going to bring up the other witch movie that happened this year called The Witch. I am thankful for this movie. It's one of my favorite movies still of the year. I don't know where it'll fall on my list at the end of the year, but I bet you we'll be talking about it. To me, this movie kind of breathed life into the horror genre for me. A really dark, supernatural, witchcrafty kind of movie that really kind of shook me like to my deep core. Like there was some real horror in here, like dark stuff, like, oh my God, where's this going to go? Watch this movie in a dark room. You might have to turn the subtitles on because there's some rough spots of dialogue to get through. But watch this thing in a dark room and get immersed in this movie, and it will scare you. Even though it doesn't have a lot of the jump scares. It's something like Ouija or you know, other typical horror movies we see. We talked about this movie on the show not too long ago. I'm not going to go through it too much, but I'm thankful for it because for me it stretched the boundaries of horror movie in a very good way. I hope we see more, kind of like Under the Skin did for science fiction movies a couple of years ago, and put a different twist on it and really made its mark. And so I'm thankful for that movie. And maybe I'll get back to it again for the third or fourth time.
You know, Jim, I'm totally flashing back to when we rented the cabin with Brian, Ron, and Rob back in May. Mm-hmm. So just to set the scene, we're renting this cabin. We have a fireplace going. We're watching this movie, pitch black dark outside. And outside the back of the cabin is nothing but just natural forest land, right?
Right.
So the movie ends, and we're all a little like scared, and like Brian just disappears. And his husband is like, "Where's Brian?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So we're like looking around the cabin for him. And finally I'm like, "Oh, maybe he went outside for some reason." So I open the back door and I go out, you know, down the patio, and I'm staring across this like moonlit like forest preserve, whatever. And there's Brian standing all by himself, like, I don't know, 400 feet away, just looking out into the woods. And all I can think is, oh my fucking God, where's Black Phillip?
Yeah, I know. That was pretty freaky.
It was spooky.
Yeah.
This movie is fantastic. Jim, if for whatever reason this one doesn't make your top 10 at the end of the year, I have a feeling it'll be on my list, if not yours. At some point, we're going to be talking about this one. In fact, we're probably going to get some overlap when it hits into here. This movie does do so much for horror. In fact, it was the first shot, I would say, in what I would say is a fantastic... This is 2016. For all the terrible things that have happened this year, you've seen the memes on Facebook, the whole, 2016 needs to end. One thing that we do get out of this year, this was a fantastic film, a fantastic year for horror movies.
Yeah.
And The Witch was the first shot across the bow at that. This was the film that I would say... I mean, obviously the other films are in production. The Witch didn't make those other films good as well, but The Witch was the one that led triumphantly across the bridge. Such a good film, such a good pick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't cheat. I didn't cheat with that one.
No, that was not a cheat. That was good.
All right. Did you want a gold star? Do you need a trophy?
Because it'll just take away from me in my next one anyway.
All right. Well, excellent pick. So for me, my next movie that I am thankful for, almost a cheat, but I'm going to prevent it from being a cheat and just choose one of these movies, and that is 1977's Star Wars, later retitled Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Will, we're very similar in age. We talk about that all the time on the Movieverse podcast. And, I can seriously trace back my love of sci-fi as a genre to seeing Star Wars for the first time. As much as I love Star Trek, I think if I could only see Star Trek movies growing up, as good as you are, Wrath of Khan, and you are good, you wouldn't have been enough to make me a lifelong sci-fi fan. But Star Wars totally did it for me. This movie just has so much going for it. Epic sweeping score. Thank you, John Williams. Really awesome sort of space opera elements. We've got, speaking of Muppets, we've got these really great aliens. We've got sort of this hero's journey story, right? And, yes, spoiler alert, the mentor has to die for Luke Skywalker to step up and become the hero that the Force wants him to be. In a way, maybe this movie is also responsible for everyone thinking they're the most specialist of snowflakes. I don't know. But everything from fucking Chewbacca to Han Solo's swagger to Leia's prissy, bitchy, cold, domineering attitude, but really she's the coolest girl on the planet, to Ben Kenobi's old, wizened, let's understand the deeper fabric of the universe. Even back when Luke was a whiny ass little kid, like I was back then, there was a lot of promise in him. Plus, back then, really cool graphics, being able to see the Millennium Falcon swooping through space and with the space guns, awesome stuff. So it's one of the movies I am most thankful for.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I kind of told you guys before the show, or I know Brad, when we were getting first connected here, I was like, I'm deciding between 4 films. One of mine was actually a cheat, and it was going to be all 3 Star Wars movies, which is good because I'm going to shift the other one now so we have some diversity. But Pivot. I say that to say, yes, not only is this a solid pick, but Brad, you mentioned this was, we're about the same age, and we have some commonalities in terms of some of the things that impacted us as a child. And, I just want to reiterate that point. This one almost made my list as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you guys, I think when we talked about this movie before, I was a junior in high school when this movie came out, and I went to the movie theater. I rushed right out to the movie theater after a friend at my Mrs. Butterworth's English class. No,
Mrs. Butterworth, really?
Butterfield. Mrs. Butterfield's English class came in with. Back then, they used to give these big.
I'm dying. Oh my god!
Thinking of pancakes now.
I'm just picturing Mrs. Butterworth at the blackboard, and she's like, "Good morning, children. Let's talk about maple
pancakes."
Wow! I want Miss Butterworth to be my teacher.
Miss Butterfield.
Can you imagine the report card would have syrup stains all over it when she's filling it?
She can't be mean. She's just so syrupy sweet. Yeah.
She's like, you failed everything, but I'll give you A's because you were a good boy and ate all your pancakes.
But she's so transparent.
Oh, is that what she is, Brad? She's not as much a teacher as she is a shill for Big Pancake.
pretty much. But she does get a little dark sometimes. I won't lie.
So yes, tell us about
Darker the better.
Yeah, Mrs. Butterfield. Sorry.
Anyway, back then when these movies came out, they used to at the premieres and stuff, they used to come out with these like glossy program books with stills from the movie and little production notes and whatever written in there. And he brought this thing in, and some of the images I saw of like Darth Vader and C-3PO and the whole gold gold suit and everything really got me interested. I ran right out, saw this movie, and fell in love with it, obviously. Star Wars is a great pick that I'm thankful for as well. Today, maybe nostalgia plays a big part in this, but it's still my favorite of the Star Wars movies. I'll forever know it as Star Wars.
Well, I'm glad that we can all be a little bit thankful for this film. We have a live comment, and Will, why don't you go ahead and read this one? It's from a few minutes ago. Sometimes YouTube is slow in delivering those to us, but
yeah, I think this was from when we were talking about the woman from the beginning of Wizard of Oz, but I may be off. Miss Gulch. From Darren, he says just choker. And I'm hoping he's talking about that and not about Mrs.
Mrs. Butterworth.
Mrs. Butterworth, because she's too sweet to choke.
Why are you advancing on me with your hands up like that, dearie?
Oh, she's so naive.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, we're going to be on Mrs. Butterworth forever if we don't switch gears. So, Will, what's your next pick?
Okay, yeah. So for my third and final pick, I'm going to go with, I'm calling an audible actually on this one. I'm going with Boyhood. And this is a film we talked about in 2014. And the reason I picked this movie is I wanted to talk about sort of in the things that I'm thankful for, like the kind of the different eras of my life. If Labyrinth was one that represents my childhood and Rocky Horror Picture Show represents just kind of the last several years for me, Boyhood is a very forward-looking movie for me as a film fan, as a film lover. This is a movie, this is Richard Linklater's movie, a very experimental, filmed over like 12 years with the same actor kind of aging in real time every year. This film reminded me that no matter how many movies I've seen or will see, that there is still some amazing things that I've yet to see. And for me, I'm extremely thankful for the fact that, even here, as many movies as we watch, we watch a lot of films doing this program and just kind of outside of it too. I think it's very easy. And I hear this a lot of times from people too. Oh, cinema is stale. There's no original stories anymore. Everything's a remake or a reboot or whatever. And then I see movies like Boyhood, and I'm reminded just how much fertile ground there is. The best movie that I've ever seen maybe hasn't even been made yet. And that's what Boyhood reminds me of. It's an amazing movie, experimental without being cheekily so, with performances by Patricia Arquette, who is stellar, Eller Coltrane, who is stellar, and Ethan Hawke, who might just be one of the better actors of our current generation. And I don't think that it's, people have really picked up on that as much as they should. I'm all about Boyhood. I'm all about what it represents to me as a film fan.
Yeah, we love Boyhood, right? When we saw it at South by that year, and I've seen it a couple times since. I just love the whole concept of that movie. I love the gentleness of that movie, right? It doesn't focus on like extraordinary events in this kid's life as he's growing up. This is just like the stuff that kind of everybody kind of goes through at some point in their life, whether it's divorce of parents, uncertainty in changing schools. And I mean, just a lot of really, just a gentle touch in the way that movie was kind of pieced together. I love that project.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was so jealous of you guys when you got to see it at South by that year that I unfortunately couldn't go because I just started a new job and you don't get vacation time a month after you start a new job. But when I finally did get to see this movie, I don't think I loved it quite as much as you guys did. But it was just so phenomenal seeing these same actors, over the span of 12 years or whatever it was, right? Seeing this boy grow up into a young man. And, we're so used to in film, like it being different actors, like even in Arrival, which we talked about on our last show, right? The Amy Adams Louise character, her daughter is played by like 2 or 3 different actresses at different times in her life. And I just think to myself, seeing Boyhood, it's like, oh no, wait, that's the same actor that was just like 10 years ago. Oh no, wait, that was like 5 years ago. I just think that's such an auspicious thing to bring, to sort of tackle, right? And we think about the difficulties in Linklater getting that film funded. I think it's something of a minor miracle that he was able to make that happen. So, man, great pick for sure. All right. Yeah, go for it.
It's my turn.
Yeah,
we're gonna stay on the Linklater train.
I knew it.
And
I knew it.
And we're gonna cheat again. I'm picking the Before series.
I knew you were gonna do it.
All 3 movies. How did you know I was gonna do that?
I called it when we were talking before the show, and you were like, "I don't know what I'm gonna do." I'm like, "I totally know, but I don't want to like say it because I don't want to influence."
When you said that you were cheating again, like I was just like, oh man, like we might have some not overlap, but some segue material here.
Yeah. Anyway, it's the 3 movies. It's called the Before trilogy. We don't know if there's another movie coming. I'm still kind of waiting on news of that. But it's Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. And God, this series has such fantastic writing. It's basically 3 movies about 2 characters. That's like 6 hours of movie with 2 characters, Jesse and Celine. Basically, it's about the relationship from the beginnings of their relationship on through marriage and falling in love and developing this relationship. You just get to know these characters so well. Richard Linklater is great with characters anyway. And to give him this much time and this much focus on 2 characters, you're going to get something special. And you do hear, when they make each other happy, you feel their joy. And when they fight, you really feel like this dread, this pain that's coming over you. That's fantastic direction. That's fantastic vision in the writing. Some awesome settings in Europe and in Greece. I love the series, and it's one that I've been wanting to go back to and rewatch. But I kind of want to do it and make kind of a 3-week, like let's do a Before series.
Yes,
watch it. Or a marathon on a Sunday or something, a brunch marathon.
Let's do a Before Sunday.
Not only that, just throwing this out there, maybe this would be a fun future, like, there's no good movies out this weekend. Let's do a Before trilogy retrospective or something like that. It's
totally
fun material, whatever.
Let's put that in the vault for one of those opportunities. But yeah, people, if you like, this movie, I'm thankful for it because going into it, I'm like, oh, great. It's 2 people. They fall in love. It's a relationship movie. It's a chick flick, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it made me kind of fall in love with great movie making again, right? Because it's not the romantic comedy mold. It doesn't fall into that romantic comedy mold. This is smart stuff. It's great examination of a relationship that feels real between 2 people who you very much get interested in, going back and forth. I love it. I can't wait to get to it again.
It's so interesting because I'd never even heard of these movies, Jim, until you kind of discovered them, right? And with each of the films that we watched, I got progressively more into them. The first one, I thought was cool. The second one was cooler. But the third one, you talk about sort of these believable relationships, right? And I think a lot of that is because Linklater sort of does this like one take thing. You have these long scenes that are one continuous take. It's just the actors like walking and talking or in a room from like one angle for like 8 minutes. And it's like, how amazing at your craft do you have to be in order to do that without like having to, cut and then do another take? The other thing is, like, during the third film, there are certain points, Jim, you mentioned the relationship believability, that they're just like yelling at each other. And I'm so frustrated and anxious for them. I'm like, why the fuck won't you just talk to each other about what you're really feeling instead of like putting on this stupid fucking front? And, I've never really gotten that from like relationship movies before. It always comes across as sort of canned and non-believable. And here it's like, I feel like the two of my friends that are arguing at the dinner table, and I'm like sitting here awkwardly like, God, what do we do?
I hate it when mommy and daddy fight.
Right.
And there's a lot of synergy between this pick and my pick of Boyhood. I mean, obviously because of Richard Linklater, but also these are films that are. Boyhood is one film that's filmed every year. The Before series, every
9 years?
installment,
8 years?
it's exactly 9 years apart. 1995, 2004. 2013. So if they continue with this trend in 2022, we'll be looking at Before Lunch or whatever it's called. I can think of anything better. And it's almost like it's kind of like the 7-Up series, if you've watched any of those, but it's more like it's like 9-Up. Like every 9 years we get to check back in with these characters and see how they're doing. Good pick, man. I'm loving all. I'm gonna add on that I'm thankful for all of our picks. Like I'm feeling so much joy just from hearing what you guys have picked as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And when we were talking about what we were going to do for the show this time around, since it's Thanksgiving, we're like, man, do we talk about like a Thanksgiving movie?
Movies.
Like, do we talk about Plane, Trains, and Automobiles, or
it's the Thanksgiving Charlie Brown,
right,
like, not a whole lot of them.
Like, what are we going to do? And so sort of this idea came about through our brainstorming of let's talk about movies we're thankful for. And having this discussion, I just realized how much I'm thankful for you guys and for being able to get together with you guys every week like this and just sort of geek out in our love for film. And Will, that was an adorable face. I just take so much pleasure out of doing this with you guys. So let me just take a moment and thank you, both of you, for all of your charm and wit and funniness and adorableness and your movie knowledge, which continues to astound me every week. So you guys are amazing. I heart you.
We heart you.
As are you, Brad, for holding us all together.
You are our glue.
Oh,
The movie glue.
Am I made from a horse?
That's not what's on the sticky on the floor of
for Black Committee Secretariat.
Oh goodness. Hey, so we got another live comment from Darren who says his comment about just Choker was actually the millennial who was like, oh my god, Labyrinth is so dumb.
Oh yeah, let me co-sign you. Like, yeah, if to the millennial that says Labyrinth is so dumb, yeah, Choker, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. He also says that we're looking sexy today. So Darren, thank you.
Hey.
I'll take that, definitely.
He's been sending me pictures. We're not looking as sexy as he is, I can tell you that.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, he sent me one the other day. I think he just like had a haircut or something. I was like, woo, wow. Anyway, Darren, we heart you too. Good to hear from you as always. I guess I have the dubious honor of closing us out for picks, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you picked us. I thought you picked us.
I'm not that thankful for you. So my final pick is from 1991. It's actually a film that I may or may not have talked about on our last show, and that is Disney's Beauty and the Beast. This is a movie that I have just adored so much over the years. I continue to listen to the soundtrack. I mean, even now, I was listening to it today. I was on my way out to lunch, and something there came on, and I just got so happy inside. The soundtrack and the score and the songs are they're fantastic. Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, such a great songwriting and lyrical team. But also, I mean, the story, obviously it's ripped from an old fairy tale, right? But I think Disney just has such a great way of sort of bringing some of these stories to life, breathing life into them in a way that, like, when you read the originals, they don't have. And I think it was especially impactful to me as like a fat kid growing up, like sort of isolated from like normal people, who sort of distanced themselves from the fat kid. I just remember thinking, like, I will never grow up to have someone like love me. I'll never have a girlfriend. And then later it was like, I'll never have a boyfriend when I started figuring things out. But sort of this story of like, when a girl or a guy realizes they love you, even though you don't look great or whatever, like there's sort of this magicalness that happens, and you kind of, realize that you are amazing and beautiful inside the whole time, even if your outside doesn't show it. I just think it's a really powerful message. I think it's a phenomenal kids film. Yes. But I think it's just sort of the perfect storm of like feels and music and, the CGI animation at the time. That ballroom scene, guys, like in 3D CGI, holy fuck, I was so blown away by that as a kid. It was phenomenal. So I am very thankful to this movie because in some weird way, you guys, Beauty and the Beast led me to keep on hanging on till I found the Chub Chaser and Bear community. And ultimately, I found you, Jim. So thank you, Disney.
Well, I'm glad Disney got a little mention because they've been giving us a lot to be thankful for, right, over the years. So much. God, so much. Like, and Brad, you just put so much pressure on this new movie. I don't know if it's ever going to be able to live up to your expectation of the original. But yeah, I totally get it. I mean, it's a great story. It's a great movie. There's just so many movies by Disney that are Disney I mean, you got like even some of the lesser known ones like Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, there's some great ones out there that are about alienation and redemption. They really kind of nailed that, especially in this movie. And such great characters and music. Yeah, great pick.
Yeah, to me, Disney means quality. Even their lesser films are still better than most of the competition, and that's just part of what they bring to the table. In fact, between Disney and Ghibli, and maybe a little bit of like the Don Bluth stuff for a certain window of time, I think those are the only things you can look at as kind of consistently good animation. And even having said all of that, Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Disney film. I'm right there with you, Brad. I think it's the one that is the best. It's got the strongest execution, the story that I personally relate to the most, music that is timeless, and characters that you can. Yeah, I know. I guess like should I bust this song now? But it's a film that you can continuously go back to. I do, and I think that I think this is a solid choice for all the reasons that you picked.
I want to hear the R-rated Gaston song. That's what I want to hear.
I don't know if it's R-rated, but it is apparently a little more risque, and it's going to be in the new movie.
No one tops like Gaston.
No one power bottoms like Gaston. No one flips from dom to sub like Gaston.
See, this is the way the lyrics should go. Yeah, this is. Can Disney? Can we get a co-writing credit here?
We're gonna write that.
It's all about him masturbating.
And now I'll be a little disappointed if those aren't the actual lyrics. I just gotta say, we've probably set ourselves up for personal failure.
Probably.
Can you imagine the fun they had writing that song? Oh my God.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, he's such a blowhard character who's so full of himself. So having a character who's a blowhard singing about how awesome he is, there's so much material to like work with. I'm sure there are so many cut versions. No, even past like the stuff they cut that it was too R-rated or whatever.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Great pick.
All right. Well, guys, believe it or not, we have reached the end of our special Thanksgiving episode of the Movie Bears podcast. Are you guys ready for Thanksgiving even? I mean, has this discussion gotten you more in the mood of thankfulness?
I am so ready for like turkey and cranberry sauce. I just don't. I don't know. Thanksgiving is just such a laid back holiday. It isn't one that I feel I got to get ready for. You know what I mean? Like, not like Christmas or even Halloween, like with costumes and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't really get ready for other than cooking something. You don't really get ready for Halloween unless your family is a total, nightmare and you have to like put yourself in a certain frame of mind to be around your family. And I can understand if that happens, but I've always felt that even with my family, just like any other family, I always felt that that's the reason it's my favorite holiday, because you didn't have to do anything really special other than cook a meal and enjoy a meal and hang out with family. So yeah, I'm ready. I'm always ready.
Yeah. Thanksgiving is, to your point, Jim, like, I'm already ready for it because I don't have to like be quote unquote ready for it. I can just have a day. I'm going to have a day with family on Thanksgiving proper, and then we've got a Friendsgiving this weekend,
nice.
where just a bunch of friends and I are getting together with Dungeons and Dragons character sheets and just geeking out the entire day while eating way too much. So those are the types of things that I appreciate. Like, obviously there's the food prep that goes into it, but other than that, it's just spending time with loved ones.
Means a lot. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, guys, we have a live comment to help us close out the show from longtime friend and supporter of the show, Francisco Salgado, who says, "Thank you guys for all these years of fun and amazing reviews. Thanks also for the inspiration and all the love from the bottom of my heart." Francisco Salgado, we are thankful for you, my friend.
Let's give him a big
Francisco,
heart,
here's your
heart on our screen.
Here's a big meaty heart on just for you. That's anyone not watching on video right now, you're very confused.
You just missed 3 hard-ons.
That's heart
on. So that's what I said. What?
Heart on our screen.
Right.
Can it be construed any other way? I don't know.
We're talking like Captain Planet, like heart, and not like hard. Like there's a T sound and a kid with a emotion.
Not sexual.
Our hard-ons are throbbing with love for you, Francisco.
Oh goodness gracious. Francisco Salgado says he's loving our heart-ons.
Oh.
All right. Well, listen, listeners. Happy Thanksgiving if you are living in the United States, if you're celebrating this holiday from the Movie Bears podcast. We are going to catch all of you on the other side of the holiday. We've got a great double feature coming up for you. We're going to be reviewing Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, as well as, speaking of Disney, their new film coming out Thanksgiving weekend, Moana, which I am really looking forward to. So it's going to be a great show. We'll see you after the holiday. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye, everybody. Don't eat too much.
We're thankful for all of you. Another heart on.
Many heart-ons.
Bye, everybody.